What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm gonna do sort of a how to play Paleo Tearlaments video where I go over like combos the deck has, and I mean they're not linear combos, so it's not like the deck has any specific set combos you do, but just sort of how the deck interacts with itself and what sort of the aim of the deck is, and sort of whatever you're trying to do in the deck, right? Because it's a deck that is a little hard to fully comprehend if you haven't played anything like it, because it plays very different from other strategies. Like, its game plan is entirely different. You focus mostly on follow-up rather than interrupting the opponent, although you do have a decent amount of interrupts. And yeah, it just plays really weird. It plays the long game, it plays into the grind where you expect to play your opponent for quite a while, because you're not stopping essentially any of their plays half the time. They're making all of their plays, and then you have to beat it with engine and follow up, and then they usually get another turn to play their engine. It's Paleo, right? That's just how Paleo works. And yeah, I'm just going to sort of show some test hands and sort of what the objective is, and maybe talk some Paleo theory as well, because people have asked me to do that in my deck profile. This list is exactly the same as my deck profile list, just fanning through it here. You can check out the deck profile, I'll have it in the description. And yeah, that's sort of the goal of this video, and hopefully by the end of it I'll be able to show off what this deck is trying to accomplish. Now, I'll be going through some test hands with, like, at least the first few. I'm not going to be including hand traps and what your opponent can do, because I feel like just to show what the deck is trying to accomplish is the best place to start. Hand traps would sort of inhibit your ability to make your plays, but yeah, let's just go with the first test hand. So we start with Transaction, roll back a one of, because we don't want to draw it, but we did. Scream, so if we see Rhino Heart, that's pretty good. Grief, this card is insane, that's nice. Rhino Heart, wow, that's really strong actually. And another Scream, which this Scream will just be a discard for Rhino Heart. This hand is actually really strong to start with, because it has a bunch of the Tearlament plays, and then based on whatever mills we get, the plays change entirely, which is why this deck is so non-linear. Like, this hand, I don't know where it's going to go. We're going to find out together, which is the most fun thing about this deck, I think, is it does so much. Like, it plays with so much engine. You can go, you're going to activate like 30 cards in a turn sometimes. Just depends on where you get. And I think that's the most fun and most exciting thing, is none of us know where exactly we're going. So I don't know exactly where my camera can see the best. I'm going to put my hand here and hope it can see that. And then I am simply going to activate the Scream. And I just realized I don't have my extra deck, so I'll be right back. Alrighty, extra deck obtained. And I know my camera cannot see the entire map perfectly, but I know we're just gonna have to make some space here. And yeah, we're gonna activate the Scream, and then we're gonna normal summon the Rhino Heart. And we're going to go Rhino Heart Chainlink 1, Scream Chainlink 2. Going second, I often do that differently, because I want the Scream to resolve more half the time. But when you're going first especially, you kind of want to know what you want to send off Rhino Heart. So you want the Scream mill first. And Scream is going to mill Rhino Heart, Shiren, Rise to Full Height. So the Shiren doesn't do anything here just yet. But hitting Rhino Heart is pretty amazing. I mean, we could make, with our Rhino Heart, we could make the Shiren do something by going for a Garura line. Which seems so good in this situation that that is just like 1000% what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to send Havnus. I like to keep Merly in deck, obviously. That's a very Tearlament thing, is leave Merly in deck in case you end up going for a Sprint line. So we're going to send the Havnus. So yeah, we are getting places, that is for sure. Then we're going to go probably Chainlink 1 Rhino Heart, Chainlink 2 Havnus. I think that sounds pretty fair, so I'm going to resolve Havnus here. Put back the Shiren and the Havnus to make a Garura, which is a pretty good card because it's going to net us a draw. Special Garura here. I feel like zones aren't going to matter too terribly much. And then what was my next chain? Yes, the Rhino Heart. So we're going to special the Rhino Heart by discarding the Scream. Scream is going to activate on a new chain, and we are going to search probably for Solyek in this situation. Solyek's just a really strong card. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So search the Solyek, and then obviously we have 2 Rhino Heart here. We're going to make a Bahamut Shark. If you're able to do this with Mud Dragon, you can like save a Tearlament on your board much easier, but we did not have that here. It's going to be hard to display everything on the mat. It always is. Every time I do one of these videos, getting everything on the mat is kind of a nightmare sometimes, but we're going to do our best. We are going to special summon the Totally Awesome, either in the middle, the left, or the right zone, anywhere that it can't get Animud. Because we don't want that to happen to our Toad, but There we have a totally awesome, and now we can go ahead. We are going to activate the Grief to special summon the Tearlaments Kashtira because, you know, I wanted, before we milled that second Rhino Heart, I planned to do that with my Rhino that was on field, special the Tearlaments Kashtira, and then send the Rhino Heart, but now we have Bahamut Shark to do that instead. I'm like 9,000% sure you can send that Bahamut Shark. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, so we're gonna special tier cash, and we need to send a Water or a Psychic. We're gonna send the Bahamut Shark. Again, I planned to do that originally with my Rhino, but because we milled that second Rhino, we were able to go for the Bahamut Shark line. Now we're in a position where we can activate Tearlaments Kashtira, which gets us another 3 mills. I don't know, let's just shuffle for the peak RNG. Mill Trivi Karma, Tier Cash, Dinomischus. Oh my goodness. So, new chain. We're gonna activate Tier Cash to mill 2, and I don't want to mill Planet, so I'm gonna chain the chain the Trivi Karma to search for Planet. Yeah, this is a very explosive. Not all your turns are like this because you run 22 traps. You often like have hands that are like summon a monster, set for pass, right? But this hand has a lot of gas, so we're gonna add the Planet off the Trivi Karma, and then we're going to mill 2 cards, which is a Lost Wind and a Morella. Oh my goodness. This deck is so good sometimes. I'm not even like 1,000,000% sure like what I wanted to add off Planet, but it just feels better than getting like Meta Noise here, but you could get Meta Noise. I'm gonna activate the Planet and hope the camera can see that. Planet is over here. If you can't see that, I apologize. Planet is probably gonna add Hovness. Oh no, that's just the biggest lie I've ever told. We're definitely adding Tearlaments Kashtira. That makes so much more sense. Because we're going to want a Tearlament for our Scream next turn, our Solyek next turn, and we want to link off what we have going on here. We're going to take our Tier Cash and our Garura and make IP Masquerena. One of the most important pieces of the end board is definitely IP. Oh, you know what though? I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of making IP here. I think we just don't make IP. I think we make Barricade Board Blocker. This is one of those instances where we opened that pesky transaction rollback and no Dinomischus to discard it. So, to be honest, I'd rather make sure rollback gets to grave. So I'm going to go Chainlink 1 Barricade Board, discard the transaction rollback, Chainlink 2 Garura. So Garura is going to draw us a card, which is Backjack. Oh man, that is also kind of an unfortunate draw. I mean, it's not like the biggest deal in the world. Like, I'm not upset that I have a Backjack in hand for next turn. And also we can transaction rollback Dinomischus to discard Backjack, which is pretty big. It means we're not hitting like Needlebug, but we don't have that engraved anyways here, so that's actually, I take it back, that's actually a pretty good draw because we can transaction rollback Dinomischus. And yeah, I think we're just gonna set Solyek and pass the turn here, end phase, because we activated Barricade Board Blocker. We get to add back that Scream we sent earlier as just a free plus. You know, if we had Dinomischus in hand, it would have been really good. If we mill Solyek at any point during our opponent's turn, it's insane. And yeah, so this is where your turn 1 ends up, and it might not look that menacing, right? Like, we ended on a Toad, essentially. I mean, we have a Solyek, right? But where this deck really excels is on the opponent's next turn and all the follow-up you just put in your grave. And, I mean, we have a lot of cards in hand, so I'm going to show the opponent's turn. The rest of the hands after this will be a little faster. I'm just trying to show what the deck's trying to accomplish, and one of the biggest components is your opponent's turn, right? And what I meant when your opponent gets to play their turn, I mean, we can stop 1 card and like maybe 2 with the Solyek, right? That's the base of our hand. If the opponent opens any decent go second card, you probably don't even get here, right? And then your opponent has way more extenders. Like, a Snake Eye deck is pushing through Toad and a Solyek most of the time, or at least sometimes. My opponents always have 1-for-1 Diabell Star Bonfire, so they're usually pushing through this. So on the opponent's turn, what we can do is, on one of their first actions, or pretty early in the turn, once they establish stuff on the board, you're going to activate your Tearlaments Kashtira, and you want them to get at least some board presence first, so that if you mill into Kaleido Heart, you get value off of it. And you want to turn your Solyek online as fast as possible. So I'm going to activate... Did we ever banish for that? Oh, we never summoned the Tier Cash that way, yeah. So we're going to banish for Tier Cash, and I'm going to banish... We don't have any traps engraved. I normally try to banish a Tearlaments trap card so that if we mill Grief, it's live, but obviously we already used Grief, so we're going to banish the Grief. And then Tearlaments Cash Tier 1, or Scream 1 Tier Cash 2 is better. We're going to mill 6 cards, which is Meta Noise, oh my god, Vivid Tail, Solyak, Karma Cannon, Needlebug Nest, Shiren. Yeah. The longer this deck plays, the better your mills start to look, right? Because like if you look at what we milled last turn, I mean, we got rid of some Paleos that aren't really mills that always do something, a Rise to Full Height, some Tearlament cards. The more you mill, the better your deck is at milling, especially if you mill more of like the Needlebug Nest and the Karma Cannons, because those are like the only bad mills. We took another bad mill out with the Paralorhino. Anyway, from here, we have 7,000 Chain Links, which this is where the deck gets actually ridiculous. So, we're going to look at our graveyard here, and I see the Garura, so obviously we're going to be able to activate the Shiren to some decent effect. We're not really going to be able to make Kaleido Heart. If we use the Totally Awesome early, because they activated some absolutely crazy card we had to negate, Totally Awesome could have activated or added back the Tier Cash, and then you could have made Kaleido Heart. Here I'm going to go Shiren, Chainlink 1, Solyak, Chainlink 2, Meta Noise, Chainlink 3, target the Tier Cash, and we're going to go ahead add the Tier Cash to our hand. And then we're going to search with Solyak, probably the Hobness in this situation, right? So it's just live on our opponent's turn. And then Shiren is going to activate, and then we're going to put this back, and we're going to put the Garura back. And we're going to make the Dragos Tapelia. These are going to go to grave. And I think at this point, we're going to go into the next game. I'm just going to show what we have for our opponent's turn, because this is like, we essentially FTK'd our opponent, I'm pretty sure. There's no way they can win at this point, no matter what their hand is. So we end up with Toad, which can add back a Tier Cash, which is follow-up. Obviously, we had Meta Noise do that here, so Toad could add back Rhino Heart, which is even crazier follow-up. We have Transaction Rollback for Daruma Karma Cannon at this point, which is probably just a game, but we can also do Dino-Miscus to pitch Backjack. We have Hobness for another mill 3. Also, I'm just realizing we could have made Kaleido Heart because we can search the Hobness first, but I'd rather not in this situation. We have the Solyak, the Totally Awesome. More importantly, we now have Vivid Tail in combination with Rise to Full Height, which means we can Rise to Full Height, target the Tier Cash, and then we can Vivid Tail, bounce the Tier Cash, set the Vivid Tail, which is just insane follow-up, and then they don't get a battle phase. We have Lost Wind set, which is going to bring back a Paleo next turn. This Solyak's going to bring back something, and we get a mill 2 off this as well. So we have like more mills, infinite follow-up. They can't break our board. They can't attack. They're not dealing any damage to us this turn. And we're going to start our turn with at least 1 Paleo, and then our next turn might have even more if we can activate the Lost Wind and the Vivid Tail. We might end up with 3 Paleos, and that's just game. Like, at this point, it would take 10 more minutes to show you what exactly is going to transpire on this one turn, and then like another 5 minutes to show the follow-up turn. Which is why you play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! When you play this deck, because it's nothing but activating just a billion cards. Your opponent is going to do their best to play through it, and sometimes they're able to make a board, especially when your hand isn't as cracked as ours ended up being with the Grief, Rhino Heart, Scream line. And our mills were pretty solid as well. There's just like, you play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Your games take quite a long time, because, I mean, that game essentially devolved into Summon Paleo's Rise to Full Height. Like, what's your opponent going to do? They're going to try to remove your sticky monsters that all get you follow-up. And yeah, that's it. So we're going to go into another hand here. I guess while I'm shuffling, talking about some of the theory of this deck, because I mentioned in my profile there. But the theme of this deck is that you want every card to be a good mill, and that's sort of why. When all your cards are good mills, even if you open like a weird hand, which ours was not, but like in regular tier, if that Scream doesn't hit insane, right? Like sometimes you're left more at the mercy of RNG. There's almost no RNG when all of your mills are good. We have 7 total bad mills in the deck with the Karma Cannons, Needlebug Nests, and the 1 planet. If you hit literally anything else, your graveyard is just your second hand, and you end up with actually just so many cards to activate. You go plus, like, if you mill 3, you essentially go plus 3 at some point in the game. Like, all the cards will have some value at some point. So, yep, we're going to pull another hand here. Hopefully it's a little different. The hands you're really looking for are, like, double Needlebug Nest or Needlebug Nest Morella or, like, Scream Rhino like we opened up. There are some weaker hands like Backjack, Linkuriboh Pass, so you know, the more diverse hands we can get, I think the better. So here we have a Dinomischus, a Needlebug Nest, a Havnus. Ooh, maybe we do a go second hand. Solyek, which is insane with our Dinomischus, and a Solyek. Okay, so we can set a Solyek and have one for Dinomischus. So going first, this hand's really simple. You just set 3, and you pass. And if Havnus mills Rhino Heart, you have the Solyek in hand for that. And again, this is going first. You have the Solyek in hand for that. Solyek will add, and that can be your Dinomischus send. You have the Havnus. Most importantly, you have Needlebug Nest. And whatever that mills, you know, Solyek send the Havnus on your board, and then maybe Fusion Summon. If you hit Rhino Heart, it gets crazy. Out of curiosity, I do want to see what my Needlebug Nest like would be. Or really, let's see what our Havnus would be going second. Okay, that's pretty good actually. Havnus hit Transaction Rollback, so yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't think you would use it. I mean, if your opponent ends up in a weird critical spot, right? Like going second if Havnus hit this. You can Transaction Rollback the Dinomischus, pitch the Solyek, and that's really nifty. So Solyek would get a search, which means you have like more stuff to do on your opponent's turn, and you Dinomischus them. It's not the absolute worst. It's not the absolute best, but you could get Tier Cash, banish the Solyek, and then who knows what that mill 3 would get you, right? And that's where the deck starts getting crazy on your opponent's turn. Like I said in my deck profile, there was one turn where Havnus literally won the game, turn 1, right? So anyways, if you're going first, I do want to see what our mill 5 would have been, because this is pretty strong if like your opponent's trying to play into this. Yeah, that's really good, because you mill the Tier Cash, which mills 2 more, and then you have okay, these mills are all, you see what I mean about milling Planet? Like the bad mills in your deck are rough, like you don't want to see any of them. But this is overall like pretty good. Like going first, you have mill 5, mill 8, mill 10, Transaction Rollback, mill 15, right? And when you mill 15 cards, you're gonna see other stuff. Let me just mill a few more, I guess. Yeah, the second you hit Rhino Heart, the hand was turned on as well. And you hit Havnus, or I mean Shiren, so now you can fuse with the Havnus if you used it with the Rhino Heart. But yeah, this hand was a little slower. That one was definitely slower than the first hand we had, right? But it was still really good. Like, I have full confidence that that hand can win. The only way you will lose that, some of my cards are upside down. The only way you'll lose that game is if, oh no, almost all of my cards are upside down. That's really cool. Okay, yeah, the only way you lose that game if they ash your Needlebug Nest, and which means Havnus is online. And then if they ash your Needlebug Nest, your Solyek searching the Tier Cash off of the Dinomischus, they still essentially have to play through the Dinomischus, the Solyek on board, and 6 mills from Havnus and Tier Cash. So your 6 mills would also have to be pretty garbage. And then you're definitely trying to use Havnus first, just in case you mill the Rhino Heart. You have the Rhino Heart Chainlink 1, Tier Cash Chainlink 2 from hand technique, which means Rhino Heart essentially summons for free. That's something important to note if you want to play this deck, is knowing that interaction. It's more of a Tearlament interaction rather than like a Paleo tier interaction, but yeah, like you do want to make sure that if you activate Rhino, obviously you need to have a tier card in hand to activate it. But if it's Tearlaments Kashtira, you can activate the Rhino Heart because you have one in hand. You can chain the Tearlaments Kashtira, she'll summon, and then Rhino Heart will still summon and not discard a card if you have no other Tearlament cards in hand. Just in case anyone didn't know that, I do want to mention that. Anyway, next hand. Morella, this is definitely a card you want to start with because it's pretty good. Karma Cannon, I feel really safe about that, going first or second. Trivia Karma sucks, but that happens. Scream, yo, give me a Rhino Heart. Mothman, okay, no, I'm totally cool with this too. I didn't bring a dice to like randomly hit dangers, which stinks, but I'm gonna set 2 and probably activate the, I mean, you can also just set the Scream first, but I mean, I'm gonna end up activating it anyways, so I'm just gonna like do this and then just flip one over, I guess. It was Mothman, so Mothman's like fine to discard because Mothman always gets you essentially what you actually want to discard, so Mothman's gonna draw Meta Noise, which is fine. And we're definitely going to discard the Trivia Karma. So we're going to activate the Trivia Karma 1,000,000% of the time here. And we are going to grab Field Spell. And this is another reason, like, I'm fine playing that one Field Spell. Like, I don't want to mill it like I did in that last hand because it just feels awful. It gets you nowhere. But then you run the Trivia Karma, so you definitely need this to search. You run the Barricade board to add it back from Graveyard. I'm going to activate the Planet Search Rhino Heart. If they Ash here, you definitely just you flip Scream, and then you Morella. Send the Solyek on their turn, get Tier Cash, and then you have Mill 6 at least. I'm gonna activate that. And you still have Karma Cannon no matter what, and Karma Cannon is a house for sure. But obviously we can go a lot farther in this hand with the Scream. Rhino Heart technique. We're gonna go Chainlink 1 Rhino, Chainlink 2 Scream. Scream is gonna mill Dino Miscus, Backjack, and Karma Cannon. Pretty good overall. And then we are going to send Hovness. I mean, I guess we could send Shire in here. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's not Merly, I'm comfortable sending it. And then Hovness effect. We're gonna send back, well, we have actually Chainlinks here. Chainlink 1 Backjack, Chainlink 2 Hovness. We're gonna make Mud Dragon. And Mud Dragon is really good because it means we get to Bahamut Shark if we so choose. Just sort of depends how risky we want to be and what else we can do here. So Backjack is going to reveal 3. Definitely not that one. Dino Miscus and Grief. So Dino Miscus feels pretty fine here. It's not the greatest Backjack, but our Scream next turn looks decent enough, right? So let's see, what do we want to do? I'm just gonna show these in the back row, just so we know what's going on. Here's one of the hands where I might just leave Mud Dragon and Rhino Heart on field because I really want to get my Scream Mill, and I want to have Meta Noise live as well. There's other lines we could do, like we could still make Bahamut Toad to protect our Morella next turn. Morella sends Solyek, get Tier Cash, still mill, but you don't know if this is going to be your mill. And you're going to end up having a random Backjack. With random Backjack though, you've already gotten Planet out of your deck, so there's almost no bad Backjack mill in your entire deck. So that might be what you end up doing in this hand. I think you can, the issue, and while I said no hand traps, but in a hand like this, you don't want to randomly get Veilered on your Bahamut Shark and have like no protection for your Morella. Honestly, I'd rather leave this here, keep the Scream Mill, keep the Morella, keep the Meta Noise. So we probably just like put our deck back like this with the Dino Miscus on top. And then we either try to Scream it away or Morella early, but we're gonna hit rollback if they just Scream, right? So you Scream, hit everything. Grief doesn't resolve, and we put like a random Paleo engrave, but that's fine. Also, people were complaining about the 6 Paleozoics, but like, look at this. I already have 2 Dino Miscus engrave and a Morella on field. I'm already 3 Paleos deep in my deck, and I'll never need more than that. In fact, I can't even summon more than that if I want to. So yeah, it was really weird. Like some people were like 6 Paleos doesn't make it Paleo tier. You literally go down to like 10 cards in deck very often, 5 cards in deck often enough. You see all of your deck. So 6 Paleos, any more than that feels like diminishing returns as long as you're like turboing through your deck. Obviously, like I don't think there's anything wrong with playing 7 to 9. I've done it in the past, but I think 6 is totally fine in a deck like this. So now that we've random Screamed, we can probably just blind Backjack. I don't always recommend this, but while we're testing here, I think it's more fun to blind Backjack. Let's see what we hit. It's a Solyek, so that's like not bad because now we know Morella doesn't need to send Solyek, so Solyek effect. Go add the Tier Cash, which is really strong. And this opens up our Morella to like so much more. I mean, we already have rollback engraved because of the Scream. We have rollback Karma Cannon, which is bonkers. So what we can actually do with Morella, well, we're still not going to activate Morella because we have this Tier Cash, right? So I'm going to go ahead and Tier Cash, just get it out of the way. We already milled Grief, so there's no reason to banish the Solyek technically, but why not? Mill 3 more, we hit the Merly, which is solid, the Needlebug Nest, and Rise to Full Height. See, that's why we didn't activate Morella yet, is that was actually my next mill. Now it doesn't have to be. Now we have this, so honestly, I think I know what Morella's sending now, but I mean, we already have Rise. Can Merly activate here? That'd be really good. I think we have, where's Mothman? Oh, we already put Mothman back. So Merly cannot activate here, but it's fine. She's going to be an Aqua for later. Okay, to be fair, Merly can activate and you can get rid of your Mud Dragon. I don't want to do that. I'd rather have the Mud Dragon than a Dragos Tepelia. And that's not always the case. Sometimes I would rather have the Dragos Tepelia, especially like in a real game where I'm really thinking about interrupting my opponent. However, another thing with this deck is you have to think about your follow-up turn, and Mud Dragon makes your board incredibly sticky, especially when everything's a water. Your Paleos are water, so they can't even like subversion a Paleo as long as Mud Dragon. Well, actually, does this affect the opponent or your monsters? Okay, it should, yeah, it affects your opponent. So, okay, the Paleos aren't unaffected by the Mud Dragon. But also another reason not to send that Merly for a fusion to make Dragos to Paleo is you have the Meta Noise that can dump Hovness, and then Hovness with Kaleido Heart Merly can actually make, or with Rhino Heart Merly can actually make Kaleido Heart. Anyways, what I would send with my Morella here in this instance, I would activate the Morella, bring back a Paleo. Yeah, sure, Dinomischus. And then Morella, with Rise to Full Height and Transaction Rollback already in Graveyard, Trivy Karma already used, there's like a 90% chance I'm sending Vivid Tail. I have the Meta Noise, I've already used Solyak this turn, probably sending Vivid Tail. Lost Wind is another option, but besides that, I mean, besides the second Rise to Full Height, it's 1,000,000% Vivid Tail here, which is just absolutely bonkers. So this is in Graveyard. And then you can just do the most insane play in the deck, which is Vivid Tail, target Tier Cash, Chain Rise to Full Height, target Tier Cash. So now we set the Vivid Tail for next turn, Tier Cash is back in hand. And that means on our follow-up, we get another Paleo guaranteed. We get another Tier Cash Mill 6 in this instance, just off this one interaction, which is so good. We still have Karma Cannon, we still have the Meta Noise, we still have Kaleido Heart. They don't get a battle phase, or I mean, they can go battle phase, but they can't attack anything. Like, what is your opponent supposed to do to this? And that's essentially the game plan of this deck. One of the issues is because that's the game plan of this deck, is setting up infinite follow-up where your opponent essentially loses. Because your board doesn't actually do anything here besides Karma Cannon, your opponent loves to think they can win, which is completely fair, right? Like, that's not on them. Like, this game state looks super winnable. 95% of the time your opponent is not winning through this. Like, it's just not happening, even if they get to their board, which they probably don't through like the 3 interrupts. But they play like a 10-minute turn, and then it's your turn again, and you have to play with all your follow-up. You are going to be playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! With this deck, because there's no floodgates. Your floodgate is literally threatening Roar. So when you play this deck, you have to be prepared to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Which means if you're at a like 9-round event, it can be very taxing. Like, if you take it to like 5-round or 4-round locals, I think it's completely fine. It won't diminish your brain power. And I'm not trying to like make it sound harder than it is. Like, it's not really that hard to play long Yu-Gi-Oh! Rounds. If you've played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's completely normal, but your chance to misplay does go up, I think, the longer you play the deck. And misplays are pretty unforgiving as well, because your deck's power level isn't that great. Like, if you don't get Rise to Full Height to resolve properly, like, you can still lose from here. But yeah, that's just some things I wanted to say about the deck. Maybe I'll do one more test hand. I bet this video is 10 hours long already. And I don't even know if I've really showed anything. I think I've shown like the goal of the deck and simply the power of what it can do. I'm gonna show one more test hand, and then I'll like show how I side, which might have to get my side deck after this, but people were constantly asking me how I side. So really quick, one more test hand. I know this video is long, and I mean, some of you are here for long videos, and I'm all for it because I don't mind making like long content. I mean, it's like a little more rough to edit because my editor takes forever to render, and that's really annoying. It's actually one of the reasons I've been uploading less, is I just hate how much time it takes to render videos. It is such a nightmare. But yeah, besides that, let's get into this next test hand. That's a little bit of insider information for anyone who cares. So we open Rise to Full Height, Nessie. I mean, I'm pretty fine with this already. The Backjack. This is definitely one of those more odd hands, I feel it. The Trivy Karma. I see. And Dinomischus. Okay. This is definitely one of your less good to average hands, but I think it's still super winnable. Because you have Dinomischus, discard like something for free, it's not bad. That might not come up. I'm just going to set the Dinomischus. Probably even set the Rise to Full Height. Normal summon the Backjack, and I'm trying to get this Trivy Karma out of hand ASAP, which is guaranteed, because we can just get Mothman, right? But I'm just gonna do this, and then flip one over. It's Nessie. I'm really bad at this, actually. Add the Mothman. If anyone ashes this, kudos to them. That's a crazy ash. But where's my Mothman? Okay. So we're gonna add the Mothman, which guarantees the discard of Trivy Karma. You know what though? I didn't normal summon the Backjack. That's gonna make this Trivy Karma more weird. Maybe I should have just like accepted Backjack in hand. And then, that just feels so bad though. I'd rather have it like this, yeah. I'm just gonna discard Trivy Karma, it's just that simple. And there we go. So special summon. I'm gonna draw a card for the Mothman. Solyak is pretty insane, actually. We're going to activate the Trivy Karma to add More often than not, it's just planet. Let me flip these over. I don't know why I have these face down. More often than not, it's planet. I mean, we have Dinomischus with Solyek, and that's also one thing about this deck I love compared to like pure Paleo, which has been seeing some popularity, thanks to Mr. Schmidt. But yeah, one thing about this deck is Dinomischus is bonkers because you just discard Tearlament cards, and it's insane. Like, Dinomischus with Solyek is so much better than Dinomischus in like pure Paleo, in my opinion. But yeah, Parallel Rhino. Let's go ahead and add the Tear Cache. I mean, that's normally what I add, but here it might just be Hovness. Either way, Dinomischus is going to search the other one no matter what. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get Hovness. I think that is fair enough. And then I'm going to make a Link 2, more than likely IP, because IP slaps here. So we're going to make IP Masquerena. We have both Dangers Engraved for fusion material, which is pretty good. Summon the IP. And then we get Backjack Effect, which is just the best. Oh my god. Yeah, that's disgusting. We're obviously putting the deck like this. And we are going to, okay, so let's see what we have on our opponent's turn. Since this is the last test hand, try to go through it pretty decent, right? So we have Hovness Mill, which is really solid. So that's like going to be really good. Again, all your mills are good mills except 7 cards. So Hovness more than likely is like a +2 or 3. We have Rise to Full Height, so we're not losing next turn. We have Dinomischus discard Solyek, which means we get Tear Cache, which is another mill 3. More importantly, this Backjack hit the dang Needlebug Nest. So we can activate Needlebug Nest. If you're in a situation where you can activate Dinomischus first, which might be the case, then your Needlebug Nest will be able to actually proc this Paleo, but you know, we're playing the game. Needlebug Nest, we saw it was going to hit rollback, which is gross. That is a lot of Tear Cache. Well, this is insane. So yeah, again, your mills are always crazy. You're going to go Scream. Yeah, we don't want another Solyek, so we'll go Scream 2. Scream 2, add the Meta Noise, because Meta Noise is pretty good, and at any point if we mill Rhino Heart, we can discard that Meta Noise to add back Tear Cache. In this situation, we really don't want to hit the other Tear Cache off our Tear Cache though, because then like our Solyek is just searching follow-up. But anyway, Tear Cache mill 1, 2. It's another Solyek, which makes the Solyek in our hand less good, but we have Meta Noise now, which means this is in graveyard, which means when we Dinomischus, we can actually just discard the Meta Noise, banish their card, bring back a Paleo, right? We'll bring back Morella. We Dinomischus, banish their card, bring back a Paleo, Meta Noise effect, bring back Tear Cache, activate Tear Cache. Oh yeah, I'm just mill 3. Let me banish a card in graveyard. Probably Meta Noise can be transaction rollback, so I'd rather do the Solyek. As long as we're in a situation where a rollback can hit this card, I don't really want to banish it off Tear Cache, but let's just see what we hit. Scream's already been used, Needlebug Nest has already been used. Rhino Heart is pretty bonkers. So yeah. It's just deciding what we want to discard off the Rhino Heart on a new chain. We have like everything, right? So if we need to go Kaleido Heart, we're simply going to go Kaleido Heart. So I'm going to send the Hovness, bring back the Rhino Heart, and then I'm going to go Hovness 1, Rhino Heart 2. I'm going to send the Shiren, and we're going to go Shiren, or we're going to finish our Hovness effect, which is simply going to be Hovness, the Rhino Heart, and the Nessie. We're going to send these back. Obviously, Rhino Heart gets banished because he summoned himself. We're going to summon the Kaleido Heart, and then we're going to go Chain Link 1 Shiren, Chain Link 2 Kaleido Heart, Chain Link 3 Planet, get rid of 2 of their cards, Shiren effect. Going to go ahead and get this, and we're going to get to make the Mud Dragon now, and you can see how this deck is just popping off, which, I mean, some of it is just tier stuff, right? Like, you've seen some of this before, sure enough, but... and then from here, you can activate Rise to Full Height on, I guess, Tear Cache, why not? Chain of Paleo, Dinomischus here. And then we can Rise to Full Height, target our IP Masquerena, use IP Masquerena, get rid of our Tear Cache and our IP. So now they don't get a battle phase, which means these 2 Paleos 100% start your next turn with them. Which is really, really strong. There's summon SP, obviously, and we're gonna like banish a card they control. I know you probably can't see this extra deck card very well, but that just is what it is. They have to get rid of a Mud Dragon and Kaleido Heart, which are incredibly sticky, SP sticky. You just guarantee start with so much. You still have the rollback engrave. All this from just so little, right? And then you have a Solyak next turn, which is pretty good. You draw Vivid Tail, which is an insane card, maybe not in this situation, but it's fine because you get Opavinia next turn. But yeah, that is sort of the way the deck plays, and I feel like I've been here 10,000 years. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about what I side out, right? Like, if you saw my side deck for my deck profile, if you haven't seen my deck profile, I highly recommend watching that because it will let you know what's going on here. Side outs for go second, it's often the dangers. Like, if I'm siding in 7 cards, right, from, for the Impulse and Phantasme stuff, I usually side out, like, duplicates and, like, bad cards going second, so oftentimes Trivi Karma. Depending on the situation, maybe rollback. I usually side out the dangers because their roll to fix hand is being like fixed by your go second cards. Usually the Lost Wind, usually like the Vivid Tail. Sort of depends if anything else is bad in the matchup. Like if Karma Cannon is not good in the matchup, I side that out very quickly. You can often, there's some engine I'll often side out. Sometimes it is the second backjack, not always. It just depends how I feel. I mean, I guess I didn't have really set side patterns. Sometimes it's a Dino-Miscus if I'm siding like more than 7. And I side out Grief sometimes too. So you can do something like this. These 2 cards are flexible, just whatever you feel you don't need in the matchup. And then it's just like other cards that either fill the same role as something else or you just really don't want to see going second, right? So that is going to be it for this how to play. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below because obviously there's no way I could explain everything about this deck even in a video like this. So if you have more questions about tier and you want to, or Paleo tier I should say, and you want to know any more information, feel free to leave it below. That's sort of the point of this video, is me helping people how to play Paleo tier. So with all that being said, I hope you did enjoy this video. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe. This is Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye YouTube.